Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. We're talking today about 5 ways to increase revenue this summer. And I am Suzanne Carowin. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Web to Market. And we're going to hit 5 different topics today that I hope that we're really just going to hit touch a tip of the iceberg, if you will. But we will be able to elaborate, and each one of these could be its own webinar for sure. There's lots of opportunities here to keep going with all of these topics. So let's get going. Okay. Let's see, first would help if we could advance the slides. All right, let's try that again. Okay, so our topics for today that we're going to look at, and all of these, I like to put everything into quarters and try to kind of lop off one project at a time per quarter. And also it helps with budgeting, right? And then we can also feel as a team that we've actually accomplished something. So the 5 things that I think that they're fairly new to probably most people, that you've used them, you hear about it all the time, but we want to kind of delve in today is one is going to be custom GPTs. And that term itself is, we talk about ChatGPT. It's the most used AI platform currently in the world. And so custom GPTs, GPT is kind of the term that they've coined, and we think of ChatGPT, but it's a generic term. So we'll talk about that a little bit in context, though, of ChatGPT. We'll talk about ChatGPT itself and truly that platform's new advertising model that's come out this year that a lot of us are still getting up to speed on or not really aware that exists. We're going to talk about kind of agentic everything. I feel like everyone, I don't know about you, but I have all these people when I go to industry shows, and somebody's always telling me like they've built this entire process and system and agent and named it, and she does everything for them, and like everything is done, and it's all fancy dancy, and you wonder, wow, like, am I that far behind, or is that really the case, or what am I missing? So we'll talk about a little bit of kind of, I feel like, fact versus fiction. And then we're going to get into kind of some AI driven search and a new product that's out on the market that we created that we want to talk about. And then finally, we're going to look at we'll talk about recency, frequency, monetary, RFM, which I feel like at some point it went out of style and now it's back. And so we'll talk about that and kind of how we can couple that. And I'm going to specifically talk about Claude as a platform for doing kind of some additional ideas for getting more out of the data that you already have. And I think that's one of the best things for marketers is that, for oh my gosh, for years we've heard, we can build the dashboard and et cetera, but it's like only one person ever, I don't know, knows how to use Power BI or knows how to build it or has the license or et cetera. It never quite gets done. And we still have all these disparate systems and it never really comes into one great dashboard. And so for a lot of us, I will speak on maybe just for myself, but being able to have a tool like Claude where I can just ask questions, but populate in with data, populate in with information allows me to really be happy and ask questions that I can find out without having to know how to code, right? Without having to wait for somebody else, et cetera, et cetera. So it can, I feel like, get us a long way there. Okay. All right. So let's get into it. So custom GPTs, we mentioned very briefly. So if you are in your ChatGPT platform, a lot of people actually are not even really aware of this whole GPT library area, but there's a whole area in ChatGPT, and this is free version, paid version, et cetera, where you can actually go to the GPT library. It's just usually called GPTs. So you can go in there, and there's an entire world of what are really custom GPTs. Now, ChatGPT themselves make quite a few GPTs. And again, what this is the analogy that I use between if I go into ChatGPT and I'm just typing in the prompt right into the prompt box, how is that different than a custom GPT? And I like to use the analogy of doctors and specialized doctors. So if I'm just using plain old ChatGPT, I open it up, I get to the prompt box, I start typing in, I'm planning a trip to Arizona. What are 5 things I can do? I've got $2,000 in 5 days. That whole thing is just a generic ChatGPT. I'm just talking to ChatGPT and its large language model entirely, right? There's no specificity to that. However, I could go into a specifically created GPT, a custom GPT, if you will, and I could then ask, I could start engaging with that. So that is the equivalent. So first equivalent, me just going to a general practitioner doctor asking a question. The next would be the difference about me going to the cardiologist or me going to the endocrinologist or the neurologist or keep going, right? So I'm going to the specific doctor who knows that field. Of course, they're doctors. They know all of these things generically, but they have specialized depth of knowledge in an area of expertise. That's really the heart of what a custom GPT is. So back to my example of the travel. So I might just be chatting away and planning my trip to Arizona, and that would be fine. But how much better would it be if I went into the GPT library and I could find a custom GPT, let's say, that's created by the state of Arizona's destination management company who is trying to get you to come and visit and do tourism in Arizona. If I could go and chat with that particular GPT, I'd probably get much more, one, accurate, concise, precise answers in being able to interact with it. So that's where I go into this area of expertise. So now, I'll give you one more example. So let's say that I'm a fitness coach and I want to make a name for myself. I can go ahead and I can actually create my own GPT for my fitness coaching business. And I'm in that kind of GPT. I like to think of it as little like bubbles that I'm going to. I can go into that bubble and I can imbue it with all this knowledge and information that I have that's specific to my knowledge of my Suzanne Carowin's body of knowledge for fitness. And I can put it all in there and I can launch that out to the world called Suzanne Carowin's Fitness GPT. And people can find it and then interact with it and then be able to get value out of the knowledge that I put into this. So I've curated that information. It's specific to me and my brand. It's got my name on it. It's my intellectual property. I could monetize it. I could not. I could use it for lead generation, but it's out there and people are now interacting with it in a certain way. Okay. That's the idea of a custom GPT. And so if you have a brand, if you're sitting on this call and you've got a brand that you're taking care of, and whether that is an association with depth of knowledge to it, whether it is a CPG brand, right, where you actually have physical, tangible items to sell, whether it is a services business, maybe you're an attorney or an accountant, or, again, like a nutritionist, a fitness coach, something like that. Any of those things, if you could bundle your knowledge in and put your stamp on it saying, this is what you know how to do, you could build your own GPT. Okay, why do I care about that? Well, I care because so much of today's world, I'm sure unless you're living under a rock, you know that people are they're spending almost all day, instead of saying, let me Google it, they're saying, let me go talk to ChatGPT about it, right? Let me go talk to Copilot about it, or Gemini, or Claude, or Perplexity, or Grok, keep going. Any of these these AI platforms. So you need to be, in today's world, in mid-year 2026, you need to be where they are. That's the bottom line. So we have to say, how do we get our brand into AI and not just being found by the AI platforms, right? Which is kind of the baby step into the world of AI. But then once they're ensconced in that world, if I'm using ChatGPT, which is in the US, the #1 platform, if I'm in ChatGPT all the time, how are they going to know about you and how can you stand out and differentiate yourself? And so that's a lot of our commentary today about ChatGPT, and specifically because it's an opportunity now, since it is the leading platform, but it's also not completely overrun with advertisers and all this data yet. So it's an opportunity for you to get in and kind of put your stake in the ground and say, this is what this is going to look like. So again, so let's step back. So let's say that now we're going to take the exercise and we're going to say that in this exercise here, we are the people that maybe we are the actual manufacturer, and we're going to make, since we're coming up on holidays, right? next week is we've got Canada Day and the 4th of July in the US. So we're going to say, hey, you know what? We're going to grill out. We're going to talk about grilling and being able to sell barbecues and all the pieces that go with it. That's our store. So we go, great. How do we make sure that people know that Suzanne's Grill and Barbecue is the place to go for all your know-how, et cetera? Like you want to, if you could shop anywhere, but you want to shop with us because we have that know-how, we have the subject matter expertise, et cetera. How do I take that and put my brand on it and then put it out there where other people in the world using ChatGPT can find me? And I'm going to say to myself, you know what? We're going to create our own custom GPT. So I'm not going to show you how to do it, but it's quite simple to do in design. So in this case, now to create your own GPT, custom GPT, and to launch it out into the world, you do need to be on a paid subscription. So ChatGPT is going to ask you to get onto one of their plan. But in doing so, to create one, it's not some coding thing is where I'm going with that. I'm literally filling out a form. It says, name your custom GPT, and I'm going to put in Suzanne's Barbecue and Grilling. Okay, I'm going to name it, and then it's saying, okay, so give me instructions and give me your knowledge. And so I'm going to fill in, think of it, I'm creating a little expertise. Think of it like if I'm at a trade show, people would walk up to the kiosk and I've trained that kiosk to answer all these questions. Or it's like I've created a little robot to interact with it back and forth. I have to give that robot, I have to give that kiosk all the information that a shopper needs in order to interact with it so that it can get the right answers. And also, because it's AI, gets a little smarter in the process each time. So I'm going to have to say to my custom GPT, here's a data dump of knowledge that I've got. So if I'm Suzanne's Barbecue and Grilling, maybe I have written books. I'm going to put in all the cookbooks I've written. I've written hundreds of recipes. I can put that in there. I have all this nutritional knowledge. I can put that in there. I know techniques. You know, again, I've got PDFs. I've got Word documents. I've got videos. I've got photos. I've got, you know, testimonials from customers. I have my current website. I can take all these different types of assets and put it into the custom GPT to say, this is now your kind of mini, if you will, large language model from which you are going to answer the questions that a shopper is going to ask. So therefore, I can train it on all my products. I can train it on all the other know-how I have, and I can continue to feed it, right? So I could cook it up. So each time, like I have a new blog that comes out, it's pulling that into the, into the knowledge base. And so then I get all that situated. And then I say, if there's any other instructions I want to give the custom GPT. For example, maybe I want people to say, yes, I want to interact with the custom GPT, and they get to interact so much. And at some point, then it says, after the 6th question, have something to ask it or send them an email automatically to say, do you want to book a time to talk to us, right? It sounds like you're, the chat GPT, the custom GPT could come back and say, hey, listen, you're asking questions. It sounds like you want to wholesale what we're actually selling here at Suzanne's Barbecue and Grilling. Why don't you go down this pathway and we'll have one of our sales executives call you, right? So you can set it up into having all these workflows that actually now are using your custom GPT to actually serve you and act like a lead generating magnet, which it is. It's a lead magnet. So now out in the world of custom GPT and the GPT library, I have my look and feel of my GPT. I have my little logo. I say that this was created by Suzanne's, Grilling and Barbecue. I can then, give them prompts ahead of time to get them into the conversation. I can give them other information. I can have people review it. That is in the world of ChatGPT, right? And I can start to have a whole nother way to engage. So again, if you are trying to, now if you're just like, I don't know, drop shipper, you're not trying to, it's just flat out pricing, it's transaction you're trying to do. But if you're trying to be a brand that really has a niche in the customer service, the retention, the building loyalty, the building engagement, the building community aspect, custom GPTs are something without a doubt you kind of want to look into and say, how will this actually help you, right? And so once I build the custom GPT, of course, I can also understand how people are interacting with it. If I build it and I launch it, I put it out there and nobody ever sees it, I probably need to do, again, additional marketing around it. I need to tweak something, etc. But now I'm again using, I could be that I'm using social media to drive into ChatGPT to use my custom GPT to actually get them to go to my e-commerce site or to my website, right? Or vice versa. Like all of those things now, these are just what I see happening the last, let's say 18 months, explosion of additional channels that we marketers need to figure out how to capitalize on to get people ultimately back to what we've been doing forever, which is just trying to get people to buy our products or buy our memberships, whatever the case might be that we're trying to get them to do on our website. This is just another channel that's out there for you to be able to utilize, learn, capitalize on it, maintain, manage. And again, we're going to have a different webinar on having your CFO or, your finance person, the accounting person, your money person in the organization, maybe you yourself, to understand why these fees just keep increasing, right? Because these are just more and more and more opportunities from which we can advertise and get very specific. Okay, so that's an option. You can, again, this can be a do-it-yourself project, and you could completely do it yourself, just for the cost of a ChatGPT subscription. You could always come to agencies like mine, and you can have us do it. We can work together, whatever the case is. But this is something you could do. You could do, this weekend and have it ready to be like, you're going to have the, XYZ custom GPT launched in the world by next week. Okay, next. Speaking of that, so ChatGPT is like, hey, you know what? We've got so many eyes now within our platform. We probably should institute an advertising model, because why not? Because everybody's got an advertising model. So they said, hey, let's go ahead and put something in place where we can do this. And so this actually came to market in February 2026. It wasn't like a tremendous splash, I think. I feel like they kind of soft rolled it into the market. And a lot of people, for many, many agencies and many brands, our budgets for years have either been completely subsumed from Google Ads still to this day, or maybe then we also branched into the world of Meta, right? And then, but maybe that's as far as we went. Maybe we put a little bit of money some other places, but literally there's so many and a lot of people put in TikTok. In the US, a lot of people have put money into TikTok advertising, etc. But there are so many channels within there, and it depends on your niche. So some people are really gotten into Nextdoor for really hyper localized. Some people are using Reddit, but like keep going, because now the big thing on the street, which we don't get into today, is all the connected TV advertising. I personally am in love with connected TV advertising because of how specific you can get it, and you're really getting into people's interest areas and targeting your ads based on that, and getting again incredibly specific as to what you're trying to do and where you're doing placement. So again, if you have like we have a client that we'll talk about, Jane's Cake and Baking, they're very specific that they sell bakeware, cooking tools. They're not a bakery. They sell the actual things to make the cakes, breads, cupcakes, decorate them, etc. So if you, with a client like that who's trying to do explosive growth in the e-commerce world and drive people to their site, being able to come into a platform that's connected TV and say, I want to show this 15 or 30-second commercial directly to people watching in the Food Network, that's pretty awesome. Because if you're sitting there watching the Food Network, right, the likelihood that you're interested in cooking and baking is pretty high. So it's pretty easy, if depending what it is, to get pretty specific with doing that placement. So ChatGPT. So while that's great, ChatGPT advertising is not yet there in terms of really specificity in being able to target specific segments. Having said that, I think they've done a very nice job of not being overly obnoxious in how they're starting to monetize ChatGPT in addition to the subscription fee model, right? So what happens is I've given you an example, is that it will show you this sponsored piece. So I get my answer back, and if your answer matches somebody who's doing sponsorship in those areas, and those pieces match up, you'll get this kind of additional little pop-up box, and it will say sponsored via ChatGPT ads, and it will allow you to see what they're pushing and how you're going to take that and start from free from that point on. So the way that you do that as an advertiser, just like kind of every other platform, you go to ChatGPT, you say, I'm looking for ChatGPT advertising. I go in there, I set up my campaign, I put in my money spend, right, how much my budget is, and then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to do some choices for where to get, how I want to target. And again, it's not super extensive at this point. I'm sure it will get that way, but I think the big thing is that it's based on topic and interest, right? So the live conversation. So it's not keyword search. This is not Google AdWords based on keywords and long tail keywords and all that. This is really based on when do they show your product. And again, it's looking now, AI is driving it. So it's looking at all the conversations that are happening inside of ChatGPT and saying, oh, look, this individual looks like they're having a whole topic and intent around, let's say, cooking and baking. So therefore, we're going to show that's going to match up enough. And they have like a weighted auction to do that, to say, hey, they're talking about that a lot. And Jane's Cake and Baking is spending a lot. So we're going to put their ad in there to fit that slot, right? And so that we're going to pick that one. And then again, if people start to really react to that, we're going to keep it at this relevance weighted auction kind of thing to be able to figure out when do they serve that up. So that whole, algorithm about the serving up and when you get shown and all that, bit of a black box, but it's there. But you know that you could spend some amount of money and get yourself in front of people that are inside of ChatGPT, right? So again, depending on what your product is or brand, we could come up with a strategy that makes sense. But you can see like across all these things, people are saying, hey, I'm just individually talking about, taking a trip to Arizona. And I have enough interactions there where ChatGPT says, wow, they look like they're planning a trip to Arizona. Let's go ahead and show the sponsored ad that's coming from, let's say, the Arizona Visitors Association or what have you. Okay, so that's how that works. And by the way, if I'm inside my custom GPT and I'm now having this conversation, you're not going to serve up anybody else's ads. So it's a way that you get to have your own kind of pop-up store, if you will, and not have ads come into your fray, right? Because you don't want to get all in depth with your potential customers or current customers. And we're really grooving about this topic about barbecue and grilling, and like somebody else's competitor ad pops up. Like that doesn't seem right? So you can stop that. You can say, this is just our pop-up shop. We're going to just talk between us about our particular brand. Okay. So I do think it's important to look at number 3 too, which is the answer stays independent, right? The ads don't change it's not swaying ChatGPT's reply. It's just placing it there, proximate to the answer, so that you can actually just have a shot at being able to do something and pique the user's interest for them to click on you, right? So it's all about getting again, we're back to call to actions, getting somebody to click on you. And then that is, again, going to come over. And now we need to have that plugged in, and you're picking that up and part of your MarTech stack and flow process, right? Because that's going to be a new source of attribution, will be ChatGPT. So how do we now know, when I'm looking at all the other things that's happening, I want to be able to see if you're using HubSpot or using whatever you're using your marketing automation platform or your dashboard, that you have this coming in now to say, hey, lead source, ChatGPT, right? Now that your monetary finance accounting people will understand. If we spend money on the subscription and we spend money on advertising and it comes back, right? What did we get? Do we get revenue? Do we not? Do we get people to the site? The whole thing. So that's kind of a whole new bucket that you might want to delve into too. All right, so this is kind of an important slide because it's kind of telling you about, why would you now want to do ChatGPT? And so some fun figures here. 800 million plus weekly active ChatGPT users, right? 2.5 billion prompts handled every day, right? So it's 6 weeks for the pilot to hit. That's all it took to get to $100 million run rate. So this is quick adoption because that's how fast ChatGPT is going. And projected ad channel revenue by 2030, $100 billion. Okay. So, the predictions are this is where it's all going to be happening in our in our world of ChatGPT. Now, remember, each of these AI platforms is made by a very large company, but well, not all. I mean, it's now large from ChatGPT. But again, you've got the power of Microsoft behind Copilot. You've got Google behind Gemini, right? You've got Amazon behind Perplexity. You've got Elon Musk behind Grok, right? So all these platforms, you got Anthropic behind Claude, right? So you've got all these things happening. OpenAI is, right, is ChatGPT. So you've got all these companies who are now jockeying for position, and especially your Googles and your Microsoft that have all this other software and they've been around much, much longer. You're seeing those ecosystems trying to come in and close in on the, make it all like Copilot is so embedded within the Microsoft 365 platform that you're never going to leave Microsoft. And Google does the same thing in the workspace. So they're all trying to kind of keep you in there, and which means that probably they're going to have advertising within all of those. And what does that look like, right? How do all those worlds kind of come together? And that's kind of what's happening in the AI, I would call it, ecosystem market. But for ChatGPT, because they were the market leader, they were, first to market, so many people use them, et cetera. And that ChatGPT has become synonymous with how we say, just Google it. We say, oh, let me ChatGPT it. And we might still mean another AI platform, but we use the term ChatGPT. So they're saying, why don't you get onto the into the platform and try ads now, because there's not that many people actually using ChatGPT advertising yet, right? But 100 billion with this type of run rate, this is kind of a who can get out there faster and put, again, stake in the ground to be able to claim your space and get your chat. Because remember, we said it's based on relevance and there, so you want to be in there as first mover advantage for yourself. Okay, so changing gears to topic number 3. So agentic everything. I was telling you at the beginning, if I had $1 for every person who, like, their whole world is just completely organized because of their agent named, Thomas or something, oh my gosh, I'd be a very rich woman. I'm at the point where I'm definitely have a healthy dose of skepticism, just like all the Instagram influencers who all have a system and they all talk about systems, their methods, their processes, and it's sort of everybody's like, monetizing their systems, and it's all about that. There's some amount of truth in that. And then there's a lot of just marketing hype, right? Because at the end of the day, an agent, the difference there is that an agent is like a bot, it's you've created, but the difference between what an agent does is that it's actually, you are, again, creating it and imbuing it to be able to understand, be able to read kind of the intent, read the situation, read the room, and then make some sort of decision-making framework, and then taking action on it. And that's really the difference. So for many people, they're like, oh, this sounds great. I'm just going to have my agent go out and read all of my emails, in my, let's say, in my email inbox, create all of my calendar invites, do all of my communication out to prospects and clients, come back, put it through my funnel, write book appointments, do the stuff. And then I'm also going to tell it, hey, every 3 weeks I need my hair done. So go book that and pay for it. And then I need my nails done here. And then I need you to always be on the watch for Amazon, because if I'm looking for, I don't know, sundresses, and I'm really looking for a yellow sundress, if you find that on Amazon in my style and size, and I can get it within Amazon Prime, go ahead and buy it for me. That's kind of like the dream world of what it could be. It could be for what these AI agents could do. And the idea, and of course, the companies would love that to happen. They want you to have these agentic AI agents who will go out there and operate on your behalf. They are a proxy to you. So everybody's excited because agents have this gap between insight and action. And now the agent, AI agent, could do this in real time with feedback in and out, right? Etc. That's like the awesome sounding ideal side. The kind of scary side of it is taking action on your behalf. And so when it comes to things like making transactions, buying decisions, and making the purchase, not just recommending, but doing it, subscribing to things, signing up for things, responding to clients to things, responding to whomever for things, there is definitely some trepidation where people go, oh, I don't know if I wanted to go quite that far, right? Some of the grunt work, the rigmarole, I like to say, if the agent can take care of that, that sounds great. But other than that, like, I don't know, we might want some control on that. And so that is something that every organization needs to decide really from itself. So I think that there's quite a lot of bit of AI slop out there, right? That's kind of slop slang. That's what we call it in the AI world, about all these things, like, right? That's kind of my point. Plug one in, it just works. The mega agent, it can do everything. We can just wipe out all of customer service. We don't need them at all anymore. We can just wipe out product marketing. We'll just make an agent that can just come up with endless amount of whatever copy for our email, etc. I think the fact is you need to, it's really what now we're saying is the human part is we can get rid of a lot of rigmarole. But now we have extra, since humans aren't doing it to start with, they're not creating the base product. The human now has to go into a much more QA role and look at everything that's coming out to see if it's accurate. Is it the right tone? Is it, is it actually really a good product? And then furthermore, now we have to have guardrails on the AI thing so it doesn't get like out of control. So now if you weren't in IT governance before, you're about to get into it now. And in the world of marketing, aside from kind of like your brand book and writing standards, etc., most of us, and if I'm wrong, tell me, most of us don't have a lot of marketing guardrails in place and all these kind of pieces of the do's and don'ts. But this is one where we might have to. So let me give you an example. Let's say I say, you know what, I'm going to build an agent. Like this is how sometimes how I feel. Sometimes I feel like if I have to create another social media, anything in the rest of my life, it's too soon. Right? So I've done so much social media. I'm old enough that I was here when it first came out. I've been in for everything that's been here. And it's still, even in 2026, it's still tremendously time consuming. And I still think people have a hard time understanding, who don't do it, why it's so time consuming. So let's say I was going to say, hey, I'm going to build an agent that's going to know my brand, know my products, and just automatically go build the creative, right? Deploy it, put it out there, schedule it, write the copy, put it in the right channels, etc. And I'm just going to let it go and let that thing rip, right? And I'm going to just keep charging what I'm charging, and I'm just not going to even look at it. And I just let it go, and I'm not really doing that. What happens when a mistake gets made? And I put that out on behalf of my client, or I put that out on behalf of my company or my brand, and nobody has been watching it. You can imagine the scenarios of the disasters that could happen, right? So it's that type of stuff, or like I give it bad data and it's not really the right market, whatever the case might be. So yes, could we do that? And could we take out the whole rigmarole of, let's say, automatically taking a creative idea, creating social media, and then saying, create it for all, size correctly for all these different channels, and then deploy it with different copy for each one that's going to fit with the parameters of that channel. Could we do all that so it's all the rigmarole? Absolutely. Get all that kind of heavy lift out of there, but then actually go out and say, right now, we have to have somebody who actually then still looks through all of that. We're going to come right back to the age-old problem where people start to say, if I have to do all that, sometimes doing quality assurance is more time consuming than if you do it yourself. And it's interesting, I think, when it comes to teams and building our teams and the next person we're going to hire, what we're going to find out, because it can be, it's an interesting kind of workforce piece of it. Quality assurance can also be incredibly exhausting, right? Just like if we make all of our agents just our customer service people, right? And then everything is automated, right? This was a dream. Everybody sold us in customer service years ago. We should just like outsource, automate everything, phone tree, click 5, push 5 if you're trying to get this. At the end of the day, though, if everything's automated and your agent is now handling all your customer service and not only queuing and telling where to people to go, but actually taking part on with the customer and actually getting, truly things done without all those guardrails, et cetera. Again, it opens, I don't know what the attorneys are going to say internally, but there's a lot there to look at from a liability should something go wrong. But also, of course, you've taken the human out of the process, right? And I think that customer service especially is an area where we're going to see you're going to actually see people say, wow, the thing we need to do now is have customer service. People aren't happy that all their banking stuff has been outsourced to other people anyway, let alone they have just only working with an AI agent. Some people might be happy. And again, it depends, but you see what I'm saying. So AI agents, et cetera, they're in everywhere. All the marketing platforms have already put them in things, right? So they already have the models in there. If you're in Salesforce, you already have your kind of agent that's in there doing stuff for you. If you're in HubSpot, you've got it. Any of the platforms have kind of this kind of piece. Shopify just came out with something that's called an agentic shopper for you. So what that's actually doing now is you click it, say, yes, I want agentic shopping. And so as people are out there in their shop world, if something again is coming up that's contextual, then Shopify is going to take your products from your store and your store piece of it and put it out there in the mix, right? So like that's great because you don't have to go and set it all up, right? And so you think, well, that's probably pretty good. It's using an algorithm to decide where to get in there. So we should click the box on that. I've had a lot of success with that. That one doesn't worry me so much because it's just helping to bring people to the stores. It's not necessarily, doing stuff on my behalf where I've just outsourced and carte blanche said you have my permission to do that, right? That scares me personally. I feel like that's giving a child like like you can leave school anytime you want and it's just like this blank check. They can just have this free pass to go wander. So that one that does make me a little bit nervous, but these things are there. And again, so many of them, I think this is the most important part of this slide is the agents are there. It's up to you whether you want to turn it on or off. They can be sometimes extremely helpful. They can be annoying, etc. But the word there on this screen is govern them and route the right work to them. And most of us have not been through an education that includes talking about governance models, let alone of IT, of data, of agents, keep going, even of people. So governance is going to be a really critical skill set and probably certificate program we all need to go through. Now, if you're in high school now, if you're in college now, I've seen some of the MBA grad programs now, they have certificates in AI now and they have governance in there. So if you're kind of in that pipeline, you're going to be okay. But for those of us who are in the workforce, you need to make sure that you're saying, hey, make this a list, because otherwise, the 22-year-old is going to know this stuff and I don't, which, is not necessarily problematic, but probably we need to upskill everyone. So 2 roads again to your first agent. You can build it yourself. Of course, the plus there is you got total control over it. You get to decide what happens. You put the governance rules right into it from the get-go. I love this. It's the risk of pilot theater, though, where it works in the lab, you get it out into the real world and it doesn't, and you're like in an endless build cycle and it never really goes live and it's a ton of money. Or of course, you can have it built by somebody using all the scaffolding pieces that are out there. You own and adjust it and tweak it, right? So like almost anything now, AI has come out from its standpoint of saying a do-it-yourself model was kind of how it was introduced to all of us, was kind of just dumped on us. And then I think many of us feel that way. And you could just figure it out yourself. But now you're seeing all the companies and agencies and everybody and their brother can help you build AI tools and workflows and processes and, tie it into what's already there, not throw out everything and start over. And so we're one of those companies that can do that, of course, as well. Okay, so I want to move to the 4th topic. So AI-driven search. So I told you about a new product, and this is just a total plug for us. We've brought this new product to market called Bring.ai, like we're going to bring it to you, bring me the right information. And so what this does, it's a great little tool. It's not the only thing out there in the world, but we love it because of the dashboard, because it's coming from an insight standpoint. Like so many other tools, you throw in some snippet code on top of your website in the head part. You'd get some training on it. It's going to train only on your site. That's the key there. So this isn't, we talked about being found out in the world of ChatGPT to draw people to your site. This is far more of a retention, engagement, and conversion tool. So what Bring does is once they're there, it's not going to help anybody get there, but once they're there, it's going to help it make it stickier. So we replace the keyword search. Often we can, I mean, it's up to you how you want to do it, depending what search stuff you have. But I guess the bottom line is this, I've been designing websites for, I've done thousands of websites for 20 plus years. For 20 plus years, we've pretty much had navigation, right? And we've had keyword search. And unless you have a ton of big budget, keyword searches are just never that good. they're just not that great, all the built-in platforms. Or you have to have you could have a tagging categorization, where you click the tags and try to get the content back. Or again, still most of the time it's based on navigation, right? So you still, the type of user between those that browse through navigation and those that keyword search has not really changed in 20 some years. So, but now we have this third option, which is I can just have my prompt box come up, which is Bring. But the key is it's not an annoying little chat bot that basically, it's not live chat, and it's not saying like, oh, no one's here. And it says that like 24/7, 365. This is actually just saying, hey, this is an assistant. Just give me the natural language, what you're looking for, right? So let's take my Jane's Cake and Baking Supply.com site. Instead of me having to say and shop for and look for all this stuff, I want to learn how to do sourdough. I missed the whole COVID sourdough craze, and now I want in. So I can just go to my Jane's Cake and Baking Supply.com, open the pop-up box, and just say, right, I'm trying to learn how to make sourdough bread. That's it. What do you got? What do I need to do? And so Bring will go, since it's been trained on all the data and the product tables, all the content, all this, whatever you've told it to train it on, to build its little specific to you, model. It's going to then say it's going to bring back just your stuff. So then it can give you this beautiful AI driven, where only AI can do it. They can pop back to you these beautiful synopsis, scenarios, summary, give you suggested searches. It can bring back products that fit you might like, right? It can give you little table comparison charts, and you can configure what you want the results to look like. But this is oh, this is wholly different. Now the user's already delighted. They're like, whoa, okay, well, that's cool. I didn't know that I was going to get a whole summary. And then it's giving me stuff like AI does, which you didn't even know you needed to know, but now that it's given to you, you're like, well, that was super helpful, right? It's oh, it's giving me a step-by-step onboarding checklist. Maybe I would have thought to ask that 2 questions from now, but it's already given it to me. Okay. And so now I can just continue to build on this chat. So now I've got a nice basis for this. And now that I've got my kind of, here's some interesting, here's what you need to know to get started with sourdough, and giving me some products, etc. I can either start clicking around and getting to the products and add to cart, or I can just keep asking it different questions. I can say to it, hey, I'm a complete new beginner. I don't have any equipment. I don't have the right whisk. I don't have the right dough whisk. I don't know what I need. I don't have the right fermentation. I don't even know what it's called, right? And so I can tell it that, and Bring will say, okay, great. Let's step it back. Let's get you to exactly what you need to do, etc. Right? So that kind of an idea. So instead of having your users have to figure out where somebody, your information architect, organized and put something twice, we can just blow past all that, and we can just get to the answers. Now, I'm coming off of working for many years at not-for-profit and association, and we had members of all ages, and they were very busy, and they're volunteers, and they don't have time to go and click around, and they're always like, can't find anything on the website, no idea where anything is. This just solves that. Just go to the thing and tell it what you want. I'm looking for the 1-page business plan. Boom, here you go, right? Or give me everything I need to know to get my certification in 5 years. Boom, here you go. So that can be very helpful, right? And so again, I'd step back and say, that kind of an idea, if I take that versus, let's say, an agentic agent that I built. I might have an agent that's like called Suzanne's personal shopping assistant. And I say to it, hey, I want you to go out and always be on the hunt again for sundresses that are yellow, that are petite, right? And just always be on the look across the web. And when you see it, bring it to me. That's one thing that's going out in the world. This Bring is now keeping them sticky and keeping them on the site. And why marketers love this is because I, on the back end, can actually see the entire dashboard of everything that they put in the conversation. And I can see whether or not it landed into a conversion, or like if they dropped a cart, or it was they dropped a cart and left. Now I have all sorts of information I can put into my workflow to be able to follow up with them for my pipeline. Because if they got to my site, I'm already excited, right? I got traffic there. I got new traffic there. I can identify them. You know, I have ways to do that now through AI to identify the user. Secondly, and collect their information. Secondly, I can see exactly what their thinking was. So when I can see how people, if you ever really want to know how, you know, understand and hiring and talking to people, et cetera, and understand how they think and how they tick, you got to understand how they ask questions, because the way that they ask questions tells you, one, their framework from whence they come. It tells you kind of how their viewpoint of the world, how they're understanding it, right? So somebody that's coming from a health background versus something coming from an IT background, from let's say an artistic background, they have different ways that they view the world because of all the pieces of, you know, the experiences they've had, the training, the formal education they've had, et cetera. So if I can actually see how people are asking questions, I can meet them where they are, right? And I can decide in a whole different way whether or not that actually fits. For me as a merchandiser, a product person, I can see like, oh, people keep asking about this particular product type. They keep asking about sourdough. We don't sell sourdough. And we can say to ourselves, should we? Because people think we do. They think we should be selling sourdough. Or we could say, listen, that's absolutely, something's wrong in what we're doing. We're giving this impression that our brand has to do with like being a full bakery and they're going to walk into our store and pick up a loaf of sourdough. They're not understanding. We're helping you, right, make it yourself. So understanding how people are thinking about stuff is super helpful. One of the things we saw on Jane's Cake and Baking Supply is people started coming in and they started asking like, hey, I have like my, partner has a big birthday coming up. What are suggestions you have for something that is easy to do, but looks really like extravagant for a special event? And so then Bring is like, oh, you should use the Nordic ware pan because it's going to come out and has this beautiful, laurel wreath design. And people are going to be super impressed, even though all you did was still pour the same batter in, but because of the pan, it looks really great. So they can start seeing that. And we were like, wow, we should start doing these kind of idea stuff and put more content into the site with recipes and tips and techniques, because we were seeing that people love that content, right? So that's something that can really help if you understand that intent. All right. So again, like I was saying, the key there is you want to be able to have it feed into your MarTech platform, right? So the rest of your stack. So I have now my Bring AI. It's extensible. I can put it into whatever dashboard I'm using, tie it into HubSpot, tie it into Zoho, whatever I'm doing. So I can ultimately, I'm always trying to take all these little peripheral tools, right, and tie them into something bigger. So I get the full 360 picture of my potential customers, my current customers, et cetera, so I can message and market to them differently. Okay. And so again, you can do that, et cetera. And so you want to have that now with search, right? That's a huge piece about how do we use, like we just said, ChatGPT advertising. We'd want that to come in as well. So we'd want all these pieces to come in so we understand where people are, because it's not nearly as, by the way, and you're talking to your CFO people, it's not nearly as easy anymore to actually get people to pay attention, right? Like email just doesn't work the same way it used to. Text messaging doesn't work. Right? No one answers the phone. Sometimes I know why we have phones that actually have dial, because it's all voicemail and then nobody listens to voicemail. So it's always figuring out all these ways we can find humans to get in front of them so they can actually respond and we can measure that. All right. Last kind of thing as we wrap up is I thought this was fun too. So one of the things, I don't know if you do it, I'd love your feedback, but I use a whole slew of different AI platforms because they have different models behind them and different data that they have, et cetera. And each of them does kind of slightly different things. So what I like to do is I'm just going to use Claude, for example, because I get a kick out of Claude. But so you can take your customer analysis. So RFM, recency, frequency, monetary. Many of the CRM systems in the past have built this in. Some of the marketing automation systems have it. I'm pulling it out specifically because Shopify has it, and it's very easy to pull out. It's like a pre-built report. And so it'll just take all your shoppers and it'll look at it across channel. So whether they're in store, like my example of Jane's, he has a physical location plus online. So it'll break it out. Plus he sells through shop.com. So you can see where all of your channels are of sales. Maybe you sell through Etsy, maybe you sell through Faire, whatever case might be. Pinterest, keep going. TikTok shop, keep going. Wherever it is. Once you get into whatever database, you're going to hold all of your master data of customer data to be able to organize, refine, and analyze it. And you look at recency, frequency, monetary, it's going to be able to pull that out. So you can have these kind of things. But what it doesn't do in recency, so you have recency, you've got a list of clients or customers, you've got frequency, so recency is when's the last time in the last 6 months, who's been there. Frequency is how many people come like once a week versus, one time in 6 months. And then monetary is just how much do they spend. Like it's great if somebody came in and dropped $10,000 on your site, but if they only come once every 35 years, maybe not so helpful, right? So we want that, you have to decide what the sweet spot customer for your business is. Nobody can tell you that. Maybe you want far more transactions from the same people, or you're like, fine, we can have just big whale transactions and go away. That's specific to your business strategy. But once you've got that and they're organized into these pieces, which is not debatable, what I like to do, and especially in Shopify, I just take a screenshot of that and I put it into Claude, and then I put in kind of some other information that I have from my different systems. And again, you can't upload Excel, so I'm going to just take screenshots and again anonymize the data, right? We're not going to put in our customer data, right, into there, any identifiable stuff. So hopefully we know that, but you're going to put all that in there. And what I like to do is I just say, hey, Claude, based on all the stuff that we have that I'm feeding you, right? What are you seeing that I'm not seeing? I said, Claude, find me the blind spots. Are there points of seasonality in here that, what's your take on that? Do you see products that you feel like we should deprecate and get rid of? Do you see products that have potential, right? So, and then you could also open it up to the world. So you could say, hey, Claude, based on current trends found in insert website, right? Or people that like insert website or insert this channel, based on that, and given our RFM analytics that we have and the customers we say we want. So this is a great time to load in your personas and profiles of what your ambitions are. Find me, like basically the Venn diagram. Find me the pieces where it intersects and it makes sense. The strategy is in alignment. Find me the part that it's not in alignment. Okay. And so the other part of that, so that's just mind blowing right there. You can just sit there and go, oh my gosh, Claude, I had no idea. So you and Claude and a glass of wine or what have you, cup of coffee, can sit there and talk all day on those things. And then also you can say, great. So based on what we're saying, let's take my at-risk people, right? It's much easier to keep a customer than it is to win one. So based on my at-risk people that have not been coming back, or they came back once, or they seem like they're a pretty loyal customer for 6 months and we haven't heard from them in 3, right? Based on that, we need to understand what happened to those people for 3 months. Did they go on sabbatical? Did they leave for the summer? Did they move? They go on holiday? What can we do? And that's, again, when Claude, and I particularly love Claude Design, if you haven't been using that, you can turn over to Claude Design and say, create me a campaign of 5 ideas for a campaign for at-risk, customers. And go ahead and, based on my design kit, create the assets for me, right? That's great. That's such a time saver. It's unbelievable. So those are just some ideas there of how you can take those RFM reports and turn them into revenue ideas, right? And again, there's no end in sight for that one. And most of us, again, I could be wrong. I've just done this a long time, built a lot of teams, worked a lot of size companies and organizations. And I mean, it's very few and far between that somebody marketer would say, oh, we have all the people we need to do all the campaigns we have set forth to do, and we have all these things perfectly running and all these workflows and pipelines built. Usually you're like, you know what, we've been really focused in on at risk, but we haven't been thanking our loyal users, right? Or we're now going to focus on the loyalty program. In the meantime, we're bleeding out the back because we didn't look at our at risk. So most of us, I think it's fair to say, can't do all of this at once. But if I can do one big analysis, I like to do it once a quarter and then say, either pick one thing we're going to go deep on and do that, or do a couple different projects across it. Then I think that makes a lot of sense for how you can organize it. And also it keeps it fresh for the team, right? So you're running a team, it gets marketing can get very monotonous. So we need to have this type of inquiry and insight. And then you can take this and you can bring it back to your team and go, hey, who agrees with this? Or have we tried this? Or what else is in the market? And I ask Claude, what else is in the market we should be selling that's hot? Like, we're missing the trend? Because maybe, you know, you're trying to actually target high school kids, but you're, you know, 42 years old. Like, you're not, that's not your world. You're not aware of it. So it's a great way to be able to bridge all of those divides and do that. So we're at the top of the hour. So I've given you 5 plays for one quarter. Let's say for the next quarter, what are you going to do? Pick 2 that you feel like has a great ROI on that, and get going on them, right? Stay in touch. Let me know how it goes. Again, my name's Suzanne Carowin. You can reach us at info@web2market.com, and that's our site. We're always here, of course, to help. And if you've got a project that you want to us to get in on, we do implementations of all the e-commerce platforms. We do integrations. We do AI projects. We do design projects, etc. You let me know, but we're here to help you grow. Thank you very much and have a great summer.